Welcome to On the Money. On the Money is a show about economic justice issues in New York City and is brought to you by the Neighborhood Economic Development Advocacy Project, otherwise known as NEDAP. NEDAP is a resource and advocacy organization that promotes economic justice, working with neighborhood-based groups throughout New York City in low and moderate income areas and neighborhoods of color. New York City is experiencing an unprecedented economic boom. At the same time, neighborhoods are getting poorer and are experiencing abusive and predatory financial service practices and products. What is the New York City Bloomberg administration doing to fight these practices and to stem these abuses? With us today are two members from the Bloomberg administration who are charged with stemming abuses in consumer affairs and are charged with stemming poverty. We're going to talk with them today. Jonathan Mintz is you've been on the job for a year now.
A little over a year.
Right, Commissioner of the Department of Consumer Affairs, right?
Yep.
And Cathie, who is the Assistant Commissioner of Department of Consumer Affairs, as well as the Executive Director of the newly created Office of Financial Empowerment. That's right?
Right.
OFE. Okay.
And on the job for just a couple of weeks.
Just a couple of weeks.
So, just getting started.
Well, thank you for coming.
Sure.
And welcome. Let's start with you, Commissioner. Let's start with an overview. Give me an idea of what DCA, the Department of Consumer Affairs, what it does, and what your vision for the department is.
In a minute or less, right?
Right.
Yeah. Consumer Affairs, actually, the city's Consumer Affairs Department was launched in the 60s, and it was really the first national model for how a city could take on these issues of fairness in the consumer marketplace, combining information and advocacy with enforcement. Mm-hmm. So we license 55 different categories of businesses. If you want to engage in that kind of a business, like a debt collection agency, an employment agency, secondhand dealers, et cetera, then you need a license from our department and you need to follow our rules. In addition, the department checks all the weights and measures, by the way, to make sure that the gas station is pumping out 5 gallons when they say it's 5 gallons. More importantly, we enforce the Consumer Protection Law, which applies to any consumer good sale or service transaction, which basically says that you can't tell people something that isn't true. And so you combine this mission with strong enforcement powers, and you have a real resource in the city.
Okay. Now, with you, Cathie, like you said, the office is brand new. You're brand new in the office.
Yes.
Give us an idea of how the Office of Financial Empowerment, how it came to be, how it fits in with the Bloomberg stated anti-poverty measures, and with the vision that the commissioner just laid out.
Well, one of the Office of Financial Empowerment is actually one of the very first initiatives that's coming online from the broader citywide, the mayor's Center for Economic Opportunities or anti-poverty effort. If for those who followed the process, the mayor's office had engaged a commission to over the last year to look at kind of what are some of the root causes of poverty of folks who are living in poverty in the city, mm-hmm. and what are some recommendations for helping families and individuals who are living in poverty or near the poverty level to move forward economically. And there was a piece of that broader Economic Opportunity Commission report that talked about one very important strategy is helping to increase financial literacy and also increasing opportunities for low-income families and individuals to build assets, or in other words, to be able to begin saving some money and putting that savings into sort of higher return opportunities to build wealth. So it was a piece of the much bigger, broader range of recommendations, but I think it was significant that one of the very first initiatives that sort of came online was the Office of Financial Empowerment, which really is speaking to those issues. So the Office of Financial Empowerment has a mission to educate, empower, and protect consumers, New York consumers, particularly those of limited means and those who are living with very low incomes, and help them to make the best of the use of their financial resources and to move forward economically. It's significant that when it was developed that it was placed in the Department of Consumer Affairs because, as the Commissioner has mentioned, the Department of Consumer Affairs, number one, has a mandate to work with the city at large and with New York City consumers at large, as opposed to focusing on specific target populations. So it's very significant that it is an office that really is targeted to working with the public at large, and that the Department of Consumer Affairs does have such a long-standing history and role in enforcing consumer protection laws, and that it is not, the Office of Financial Empowerment is really intended to be an office that is not just about financial education, although that is a key piece of what we hope to accomplish, is to broaden opportunities for financial education, but that it really has a significant consumer protection role in terms of looking at what are the consumer issues that people are facing in terms of financial service delivery, and being able to think through strategies of what are the appropriate actions that we could take. Are there certain practices that are going on right now around financial service delivery that would naturally be able to be addressed within the mandate of the Department of Consumer Affairs? Right. Are there fraudulent or deceptive practices occurring? And is that something that we could be looking at in terms of our vast resources, our vast legal resources, and looking through enforcement and litigation options? Are there issues that, while don't necessarily fall into our regulatory or enforcement abilities, but that we think are significant and need to be somehow addressed? And those are where we would look at, what types of, steps we could take to, support legislation or changes to existing legislation that would help us to address some of those issues. So as I say, and lastly, that it's very significant that there's a significant empowerment piece to it, which I think is about not just on the one hand educating, on the other hand protecting, but that it's about thinking through what are good practices and good programs that are out there that can make it easier for people to build savings, to reduce their debt, and to move out of a situation where they're just money coming in is money going out. That we want to think through, make strategies and programs that can make it easier for people to retain some additional dollars in their household budgets. So. Okay.
Well, we're going to break down some of that stuff.
Yeah, sorry, that was a lot.
No, but I mean all those pieces are very important. I want to sort of slice some of them off as we go along. Okay. I have to say this though, there's a buzz around town about your office and about DCA in general. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of expectation. Could you talk a little bit about what's different about what you're doing as far as government, as far as New York City? What is different about what you're doing than ever before?
I think what's really exciting is you take this mission, right, to help people move forward, to help them grow what they have. And for the first time, you put it into city government. No other city does that. It's a great mission, and there are fantastic organizations out there that have this as a key part of their mission, like NEDAP. So the question is the right one, which is what do you add when you house this mission within city government? And this is where I think the mayor and Deputy Mayor Gibbs were so innovative. The idea is you put it in DCA, as Cathie mentioned. You use the ability to message in a way that government can. And look at the tools we have. We've got 311, for example. Right. You use the ability to leverage compliance. We regulate certain businesses. We enforce the consumer protection law. Generally, when we call an industry that we're concerned about, they're going to come talk to us. Okay. And you sort of, let's be honest, you leverage that power toward this terrific mission, which is helping people move forward. And so the experiment is, and I think an exciting one, which is what does government add? Not how do we do a better job than NEDAP. How do we take some other financial education provider and do a better job of providing financial education? That's not our focus. Our focus is exactly on your question, which is what can government at the city level uniquely do?